started trying to record different presentations that I was doing just to be able to look at them later and see what that came out of my mouth that I didn't know was going to come out of my mouth. So we're meeting for 3 hours this evening, and then tomorrow we're on from 9 until 6. And I sent an email out this afternoon that says if we'd like to have sort of a soft start tomorrow so that you have a chance to talk to each other for a little bit, and so that we can get started at 9, because we are going to pack things in. That said, we do have plenty of time for a break, so we are going to be mindful of time. Natalie pulled a clock out here, thank you. But our intention is for, as I said a few minutes ago, to really get you jump started on this process, to share our information, what we've learned as we've started our individual practices, and to get you more comfortable with some of the concepts and some of the different aspects of having a business, because that's really what this is. If you're starting a private practice, and it doesn't matter what kind of practice, it's a business. So very often counselors, energy workers don't have that business background, and it's a little scary. I think I found it a little scary. It's a different part of the brain that we have to think on with. So our intention then is to give you some good guidelines and some, like I said, some foundation to get you more comfortable in going. And so this evening we'll do some introductions. We'll start with some self-assessment, checklist kind of exercises, talk about business structures and money and bookkeeping, and also do some vision and mission statements to get you jump started in that way. We have a guest speaker, my accountant. I love her. She's coming to speak to you all. I told her it was really going to be like a discussion and very informal, because she's terrified of speaking in front of groups. Don't tell her I told you that. But she is a dear, and has so helped me in so many different ways. She's clarified some things, and when I've said I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here, she said, "Oh, you just do blah 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 blah," and then gives me a hug. So, which is what I need. So Sabrina will be coming probably about. She'll get here about 7:15, but she'll be on by about 7:30. So I've done some talking right now. I'm going to let Natalie introduce herself and then come back.
I mean, it's all kind of like...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so I met Dr. Thompson when I was a resident. She was my supervisor. And that was kind of when I first started looking at private practice. I came in the first night and said I wanted to be in private practice. And we were like, okay, let's get it going. So I started seeing clients just like 1 or 2 a week out of her office in Norfolk. I did that all throughout my residency, and I started kind of building, and I was also working at another job at an agency that I started to really not be happy at. So by the time I got my license, I knew I really wanted to be in practice full time. Like 4 months after I got my license, that's when I left that job and I came here. And that was in September. So I left my job in September and came full time here, and now I'm full. So I didn't really think it was going to happen that fast. I'm excited that it did.
So I think it's helpful for you to really hear is that it took Natalie some time to build her practice. And that's a mental shift for a lot of folks. And I know that I had that, well, I'm going to hang my shingle. And when you say it, it sounds like, well, that doesn't sound like it's going to happen. But you think, well, I'm going to open my doors and people will come flooding in. It doesn't happen that way. And so part of what she and I talked about was building her practice while she was still working full time, so that we had this sort of overlap, figuring out a time where it was the right time for you to make that jump. For me, I started private practice for the first time in 2000, and I had worked at a university counseling center for about 4 years, and decided I wanted to go into private practice, and at that time collaborated with somebody else, so I shared office space, which is a hot tip. I think it's a really great idea to share office space when you're first getting started. And we'll talk about some different options related to that too. So I was actually full-time private practice and doing some consulting work. I never really wanted to do just one thing, so I did private practice and consulting work. I also taught as an adjunct for 5 years. And I have to say, I'll just say this, it was as much of a emotional, psychological as it was a spiritual journey for me. I mean, I had to really learn about myself, and I had to also learn about what I believed in terms of where I was able to get help, if that makes any sense to you all. I'm seeing some head shaking. I worked for 5 years doing this, and then decided that I had this opportunity to teach as a full-time faculty member, and initially it was a temporary position, a 1-year position that turned into 3 consecutive 1-year positions, and then 9 years later, after I started, I decided it was time to come back. So this is sort of a second start for me. I left that full-time faculty position last spring, and when I knew that I was leaving, I started ramping up too. So just knowing that I maintained my practice while I was a faculty member 1 day a week, and I booked everybody 1 day a week. And so it wasn't as hard of a ramp up for me as it might be if you're just getting started. Yeah.
She said that she was working with you during her residency to get herself started. How long was your residency?
2 years. That's what I was going to come back and say, that I didn't just like jump right in and do this. I built up over 2 years. So probably for the first year and a half, I was intentionally staying small because I was not that close to being licensed, and I was still working full-time somewhere else. But at that last chunk, that's when I started really kind of gearing up.
Okay.
Thanks for that. That's a good question. And I would say that it probably took me 2 full years the first time I started in practice to get to the place that I wanted to be in terms of the number of clients that I wanted to see. So it takes time, and if you were to look at marketing and business plans and information around business, what the guidelines are is that it usually takes anywhere from 5 to 6 years for any business to go into the black. So red being, you know, you're not making enough money. In fact, you're not making expenses, but going into the black. And I want to say that there's some great news for us in terms of being able to have a low overhead. So we'll talk about different pieces that will be helpful and easy to get you going. So how about you? I'm going to turn this off so that